Hello fam, this is brother DJ Hot of My Art. Just getting back with you guys. Want to do another post on the Dr. Umar situation with his license and the state board. Uh, this video is actually to a response to another video I saw with the brother Shelton, Xavier Shelton, posted on Facebook, where he kind of went in on Dr. Umar. I saw a lot of defamation of character. Um, Without any real proof. A lot of the stuff that he was saying was just from his perspective or what he thought. He presents his knowledge of the situation as if it's all firsthand. A lot of what he says, he'll even tell you that is merely just conjecture or something he came up with or what he thought perceived. He even said that, one of the things he said is that, man, when he was in the Nation of Islam, he watched a lot of film on Farrakhan, and he looked at men's eyes, and from that, he knows how to, say when people are lying or bullshit or just jabbing. Um, that's his expertise or his accreditation for his expertise on whether a person has a degree, don't have a degree, if they're lying, not lying. No formal training, just watch videos and look in the eyes of a 32-inch screen of people who, you've never spoken to. But anyway, so on the video, what Xavier Shelton says is that he actually does post some interesting questions that would have a person think what's going on with Dr. Umar and the school. So that's one of the points that I'm going to point out. Throughout this video, I'm going to point out the things that Xavier says, and I'm going to back it up with information that pretty much should clear up any questions that somebody has about Dr. Umar Johnson. It could pertain to what Xavier is saying. And, I feel that Dr. Umar Johnson is really getting a bad rap from the black community, especially from these Wikipedia, Google intellectuals who sit on the computer all day and they don't really fact check at all. They just, they want clicks and they want views and they want likes and they want subscribers and they don't really care. And the people that's viewing their page don't even fact check or view or nothing. They got this like little cult thing going around and just pure nonsense. As they say, common sense science. Anyway, fam, let's get into it. So, Xavier actually went and called up the agent, the head agent, a real estate agent of the school. And he pretended to be, or he said that, I'm an associate of Dr. Umar Johnson who's looking about his school, and just try to get knowledge, right? Which is very deceiving in investigating, which I don't know really why he would do that, considering the fact that he didn't give any money to Dr. Umar Johnson, and although he might have knew some people who did that was on his channel, but he never gave any money to Dr. Umar Johnson at the time. Any speculations that Dr. Umar Johnson was doing something fraudulent with the funds was just what it was speculation. Was no proof behind it. So he said he spoke to the agent, and the agent actually said that Dr. Umar Johnson was an intelligent man. He was bright, and he had a good plan. But all he did was talk to him briefly, come down to the campus, and record a YouTube video. Then he walked around, and as Xavier said, he bounced. Okay. Xavier said that he asked the agent, did Dr. Umar Johnson even make an offer on the building? Did any paperwork? The agent said no. And so he go into this little rant. Oh my goodness. Why wouldn't he do that? Oh, it's the first thing. Oh, it's the first thing. We know that's the first thing as an agent. I used to be an ex-real estate agent. All my real estate friends know this. Why would you do that? Like they had a huddle or something, I guess, because they ain't got nothing else better to do. So they got in a huddle to talk about Dr. Umar Johnson, about him not making an offer on the building. And so, and then people start thinking like, yeah, man, why wouldn't he do that? Why wouldn't he do that? Why would he go all the way down there, talk to people, not make an offer? I knew he was phony. He was fake. Then I know that's what they were saying, right? So you're getting people kind of persuading people to a certain point of view, which was what it seemed like. So I said, you know what? Before I go in and tear in on Xavier, because, I don't want him to feel like I'm just jumping to Dr. Umar's defense, which I am in this instance. But I want to make sure that if I'm going to go to somebody's defense, which he does not need me to, Dr. Umar Johnson is capable of handling himself. but on this case, I will defend him gracefully on this issue. So he says that he never made an offer on the school, and as real estate agents, people know this. Now, if he would have known, if he would have did a little research, if he would have just went back to Dr. Umar Johnson's videos, he would have saw a few videos that were Dr. Umar Johnson in one, proceeding to the video in the school, where he did the video at the school, where he said he walked around and he did the video. He actually, Dr. Umar Johnson in the video, was talking about the fundraiser part one, said that he was sending, his think tank was looking for schools around in this areas like Chicago, Detroit, and Atlanta, some other places, and somebody came up with St. Paul. They ended up in the think tank, came up with St. Paul. They emailed, no return. Then finally somebody called him and said that it's going up for auction. So he immediately got back on email, and I think something happened where the guy texts back. He then called the president of the school to figure out, what's going on with the school. And the president of the school wanted to make sure that, he had the same vision that the founder of the school had, and that it was mainly focused on education. Now, Dr. Umar Johnson says that the president of the school was very sympathetic to what he was trying to do and thought it was a good cause. So he told him that, hey, you could use the name and you could use it for promotions, you could use it for fundraising. But in the other videos, he stated, in the interviews, he stated that the school cost $2.5 million. Now, Xavier says that, hey, well, why didn't he just, if he came out of school, he ain't had the money, what's going on? It's taking so long, as if, raising $2.5 million is, easy or something. And then he says that, see, this is what happens. You got kids, but we go play through this. DJ, shh. No, stay there. This is the one that was sleeping before. So, but anyway, so as if raising, $2.5 million is easy. So he says, well, why he could just do the the 20%, because that's what you would need to do. You could just do the 20%. The 20% of $2.5 million is somewhere around $500,000. If he would have looked at the videos that Dr. Umar Johnson put out, he would have known that Dr. Umar stated that when he was looking to raise funds and he was getting different contributions from different people and then from a lot of colleagues, a lot of celebrities, and just regular people, whether it was $1 or $1,000 and people sending money in, that he said that he was only able to raise less. He raised less than $100,000. He didn't even get there. And that he also said that he wasn't being judgmental of the people because they weren't prepared for such a financial feat to raise money for the school. But he would still remain positive and optimistic. If you'd have looked at the videos, and there's several videos, he would have known that when he went to the school, he was going to the school on the premises that he was already authorized that he could use the name, use the school for fundraising promotion, and that's the reason why he went there, talked to the agent, because he didn't have the money. He was working on the money, and he needed a way to make the money, so that was a promotional video to raise the funds. So if he would have did his research, instead of sitting at home, doing whatever he was doing, and feeling a certain way with Dr. Umar, he would have realized that that was the purpose for him going to the school, and that he didn't have the 20% to even make an offer, a legitimate offer to the real estate agent. He would have just been wasting the real estate agent's time without that 20%, as he said. He also would have known that it was taking a lot of time because Dr. Umar Johnson also said in a previous video that when he had talked to the president, the school would require bills, and it had already had bills, and he wanted to make sure that he had the funds that would be necessary for him to run the school. He didn't want to just jump into something because he was emotionally lifted to do something without being realistic and then financially set to make sure he accomplished the task at hand. Xavier would have known this, and people who made these same allegations as Xavier Shelton would have known this if they would have just done a little bit of research. If you know anybody that purchased a house that don't have the money, you know that it takes time. It takes some people 5, 6, 7 years to save up money. When you're working day in, you still got bills. You go have bills. The house gonna have bills to save up that little 20%, not including credit. So it's not just that easy to raise 20% or to make a financial commitment to something like that. So that was one. That was one thing. And like I said, I hear people say that all the time. So that was one of the things. The second thing that he started to mention was he says that Dr. Umar Johnson is a PhD. He's a doctor by degree in doctrine, education. He filled the requirements, but he is not a state licensed doctor. Now, this is something that I hear a lot of people on the hate feed, is what I call it, the hate feed. This is what they keep spouting. Oh, he's not a license. He may be a fake. May be a fake. I don't never heard somebody just like telling a girl you may be a hoe. You know what I'm saying? It's ridiculous. If a police officer came to your son right now and said you may be a gangbanger, you may be prostituting, you may be committing a crime, you would go crazy if somebody said that. But I guess it's okay to say something like that to one of our brothers for whatever reason, because I guess we get passes like that. That's ignorant. That is totally ignorant. That's you don't attack somebody like that, especially professionally, especially character-wise. But this is what he said, and then he made a comparison to how to get for the logic of what he was saying. He said that, oh, well, I have a friend who is a doctor, but she didn't go get licensed, so she's a doctor, but she's not a whatever he said, some type of other thing. So Dr. Umar Johnson is a doctor, but he's not a licensed doctor. He's a PhD. He did his, and I'm going to use air quotes that he used, he filled his educational requirements. Once again, this is what people have been saying. You can read the videos, you can look at it. Once again, this is very just sloppy investigation. It's sloppy work. If you're going to be on here, you're going to be doing videos, and you're going to consider yourself a teacher, which I don't consider myself a teacher. I know a little something about something, and I'll try to learn every day from the people who are on here, and I disregard information that is useless, and I try to use, and if it's applicable, to information that is viable to me. But truth is truth and fact is fact. So with that, he would have known that in the field of psychology, in psychology, there are many fields. He's right on one thing. Dr. Umar Johnson is not a licensed psychologist. Let me repeat that. Dr. Umar Johnson is not a licensed psychologist in the sense in which he's stating. Once again, you're painting the views from a different side, which is making people believe what you're saying. Because if you know nothing, but people that listen to you know less, you seem smart as hell. You seem very smart. But you're just a bunch of dumbasses running around, blind leading the blind. Do the research. Do the investigation for yourself. This is why I say this, right? Dr. Umar Johnson been on several interviews. We talking about the Breakfast Club. We talking about the Ron Martin Show. We talking about different other independent small radios. And this is what he says. They even tried to catch him on Ronald Martin's show when they started talking about that. Oh, that you was a blood relative of Frederick Douglass, and he says I never said that. I said I was a descendant. And there's two different definitions. So depending on which angle you're trying to get him at, you can use to make people believe what you're saying. But the brother's smart, and he's very articulate at what he's saying, and he's pinpoint accurate. Where Ron Martin, anybody that has a radio show, Breakfast Club, they have investigators. They have way more resources than you have. So if there was something to be found that was fraudulent with this brother, they would have found it way before you would. They would have put it on the news. They would put it on the TV. There was no way he would have been able to deny it. It would have been done. But this is what Dr. Umar Johnson said, right? And so on Dr. Umar Johnson, College for Young Black Boys, in his video, he said that he was a school psychologist, a doctor. He has a doctorate in clinical psychology, and he holds degrees in political science and education. He says he has an undergrad from Marysville University in political science psychology and a master in School of Psychology. Subsequently to that, Pennsylvania certification as a school psychologist. He was practiced for over 2 years. After that, he has an educational leadership master's degree and a principal certificate from Lehigh University in Bellingham, Pennsylvania. Now, that's what he said. Not one time did he say in any way or form that he was something that he was not. Now, if you can't keep up or understand what he's saying, that's not his fault. That's your fault. That's your fault for not knowing. It's not his fault. He told you exactly what he was saying, what he meant. He said exactly what he is. And if you can't comprehend that, Xavier, or anybody else who keep talking about what this man isn't, then that is your fault. You know what I'm saying? As in the words of Dr. Henry Clark, our elder, our master teacher, he said, don't get mad, get smart, prove me wrong. Because that's what he said, that's what's filmed, that's documentation on it. So when he starts saying, so what is he? Is he licensed? Why he need to stay board? No, you don't. So, like I said, go to the sources. Figure out what's right, what's wrong. So, in psychology, in clinical psychology today, there's many specialties that you can do. But where he is, as far as a school psychologist, this is what allows him to do this when he got his certificate. His certificate was pretty much the emphasis is on skills necessary for the delivery of a range of assessments, interventions, and consultation services. That's what he does all day. He'll tell you this. People will tell you what he does. But, oh, he has to be licensed. He has to be licensed. I know people, I got people in education, I'm smart. No, you're dumb as hell. Because you don't know anything about fields that you have nothing to do with, and you're listening because you have some type of ulterior motive or some type of just hate. I don't know what it is, but you need to get smart. But here's the difference between a certificate and why he's able to call himself a psychologist compared to a license. This is coming directly from the Introduction to Clinical Psychology, 8th edition, Godfrey P. Kramer, Douglas A. Bernstein, and Vicky Fraze. This is a book used by the University of Washington State in Vancouver. It was used in 2016, recently. So it says certifications and licensures. A certification law requires use of the title psychologist. Once again, let me say that again. Certification laws restrict the use of the title of psychologist to people who have met the requirements specified in law. Once again, certification laws restrict use of the title psychologist to people who have met the requirements specified in law. Certification protects only the title of psychologist. It does not regulate the practice of psychology, which he said he earned in Pennsylvania. He earned the certificate of psychologist of school psychologist. So he can call himself a psychologist. Just like a person who got licensed. Now, let's talk about license because people want to know about licenses. They keep talking about it. Half of you motherfuckers ain't even got driver's license and talking about a man's credentials for education for psychology license. It's just ridiculous. Licensures is a more restrictive type of statute. So license, once again, is a more strict type of statute. Licensing laws define the practice of psychology by specifying the services that a psychologist is authorized to offer to the public. Once again, licensing laws define the practice of psychology by specifying the services that a psychologist is authorized to offer to the public. And it says the requirements for a licensure is usually more comprehensive than for a certification. To distinguish between the certification and licensure, remember the following of rule of thumb. Y'all listen to this. Certification laws dictate who can be called a psychologist, while licensing laws dictate both the title and the activity allowed by a psychologist. So, once again, do your research, folks. Do your research. Dr. Umar Johnson for the state, because people was complaining and making all these noises, just an investigation because black people who have envy in their hearts, hate and wish they could do what that man did, may not agree with his philosophy, have been constantly bugging authority, so they're looking into it. But he's done nothing wrong. The Code of Ethics, which is in the DMS-5, clearly states he hasn't broken anything as far as describing. He hasn't been found negligent, indirectly or directly, of any harm or intent to harm anyone. As far as the misappropriation of funds, that would have to do with the IRS more than the APA. That's more federal. And there still hasn't been any type of, evidence found on that. And he hasn't been going around working outside of his parameters of what his certification is. So this is which is really troubling in the black community or in any community when you hear so much defamation like this. And then when somebody, Xavier, says, when I was in the Nation of Islam, they used to have boxes of film of Louis Farrakhan. So I guess he was trolling Farrakhan at the time. And he said, and I used to watch these films, and I used to look in the men's eyes. I used to look in their eyes. And I know when they jiving and they full of shit. He's a scammer. He's a scammer. So he found out all that from watching video boxes in a 32-inch screen TV. And somehow he's an expert on it. I don't know, folks. This is what we reduced to. I mean, I got so much more that I could say, but this is getting kind of long, so I'm gonna leave it at that. Just on the licensing part. But I will say this with Xavier Shelton, I believe, based on what he said, is that he said that the reason why he's doing this with Dr. Umar Johnson, which many others probably have their own reasons, which is very similar, but it's all the same. He said that one day there was an event that was going on with Dr. Umar, and he went to support Dr. Umar Johnson. So at one point, he must have either liked Dr. Umar or respected Dr. Umar Johnson or was okay with Dr. Umar Johnson. Paid his money. Boom, bam. Got it. Paid all the money. Walked up to Dr. Umar Johnson. Hey, he probably came up with some shit like, I'm best recreated. Shelton, And he says Dr. Umar Johnson was kind of hesitant about, him and hands off, kind of withdrawn. And he says that, at that point he says, man, he bipolar. I knew something was about him. He's full of shit. I can tell because I've been looking at those films for about 15 years of Farrakhan, looking at people's eyes, learning how to watch that, and I know he's jiving and full of shit. That's what he said. Now, it might be a little bit comedy in there, but pretty much that's what he said. So he called the man bipolar. I've never known him to be anywhere near in the field of psychology. He don't know what bipolar is. He has no idea what bipolar is. This is the same purple people, because he smoked that kush a little bit, but he's the same people, right, who gave a definition of indigenous as a from or away or something like that, or from. And I gave him the actual definition of indigenous. And even though I gave him the correct definition of indigenous and told him that what he was saying now ruins everything or kills everything he said based on definition alone, he still went with the same narrative. So he said it was bipolar. So I want to say, based on the DMS-5, and we have it here, right? What is bipolar, right? What symptoms of diagnoses of bipolar did Dr. Umar Johnson display or exhibit or present that was observable to make a diagnosis of that? And which one was it? Was it bipolar 1? Was it bipolar 2? Was it bipolar enhanced based on the substance? Was it bipolar unspecified, specified? What was it? See, that's what I'm talking about, man. People have to be really careful with what they say. Dave Chappelle said it one day. He had a interview, and he says, don't say people crazy. It's dismissive. It's the worst thing you could do is call people crazy. Say they this and that. It's dismissive, right? He isn't qualified to make that type of assessment or even to say that Dr. Umar Johnson. The brother does a lot of work. He's been putting in a lot of work. He has a huge dream, a vision that he want to do, and it's crazy that the people ain't, have not backed him up the way they should. But I want to let the brother know, Dr. Umar Johnson, there's some of us that's behind you, brother, and we can no longer afford to lose strong black men that's in leadership that are fighting for us. And we got to understand also that in almost every time something about to come up, there has been somewhere in form of black person or black people that have destroyed the dream and the progress of the black movement, of black nationality, black liberation, black economics, as far as a self-sustaining entity, And just for a count, we can go all the way from, 1822 with Denmark Vesey. It was a black man that led to the fall of the uprising of that one. Nat Turner, it was stated that it was a black slave who snitched on him. In 1965, Marcus Garvey was a group of black haters. There's no way that a leader that strong as Marcus Garvey should have been deported out of the U.S. without the U.S. being tore up. There's no way. But it happened because it was some black people that was behind that. Malcolm X, it was some black people behind his assassination. Dr. Martin Luther King, where Dick Gregory got a videotape and did some research, and Dick Gregory showed the evidence that it was some black people, some reverends and pastors, that was behind Martin Luther King that did that. So, that's where we at today, but I just wanted to sit that out that, hey, if somebody's going to put some video out about somebody, please do the research, back it up, find out if they're true. Another brother just sent me some information from the Pennsylvania where you could look up Dr. Umar, see if he was a license based in Pennsylvania. But as I told him, that he doesn't have a license, he has a certification, so it wouldn't be in there. But, and if things come out true, it'll come true. It'll come, if that because you get convicted doesn't mean it's necessarily true. If you get stripped, it's not necessarily true of anything, because we know a lot of brothers out there taking plea bargains because of what they offering is worse than being stripped. So it is what it is. Be careful. If you like the video, please subscribe. Like the video, share it. If you got any questions, let's have conversation. Let's have dialogue. Let's get this together as one people. And let's learn how to have conversation instead of feeding hate to others and spreading cancer. Peace out. Love everybody. Hotep. Peace.